While looking at the Gove new extremist plans, it's worth looking at what's already in existence. There's a law going back to 2011, and the existing definition of extremism is very clear. It covers vocal or active opposition to fundamental British values, including democracy, the rule of law, individual liberty, and mutual respect and tolerance of different faiths and beliefs. And I would have thought that catch-all makes it quite impossible to tolerate a statement made or not made, allegedly made by Frank Hester, that Diane Abbott deserves to be shot, and that Diane Abbott, that mixture of racism and violence, misogyny. I think the misogyny is implicit simply because the person cited is a woman. But I think the wording of any new extremism bill must look very carefully at what the process is. If it's not going to be a criminal process, if it's simply an advisory process, I don't quite see what its purpose is. And equally, I don't see how the current extremism bill can't be invoked to deal with Hester. I understand Diane Abbott has now contacted the police, and we'll have to see what happens. Does that now mean that we won't be able to talk about this case? Does that now mean that we're going to be silenced about the allegation? Because I think the allegation is something that we need to talk about. If an arrest is imminent or an arrest is even possible, does that mean that existing understandings of the law, that we shouldn't be talking about people until they've been charged, I think it would be very foolish not to be discussing the alleged words that Frank Hester has used. We can't hide this reality by hiding behind an edifice of law, a facade of law, because that makes the law worthless. It's only because people have started, or it's only because journalists have started to do the work that the police clearly are not doing, that we have seen any move towards protecting people from the kind of abuse that went on under Jimmy Savile. That shroud of secrecy is exactly what allowed him to get away with it. And if we impose a new shroud of secrecy based on the law, without a clear and defined law about privacy, which we don't have in this country, then I think we've got a major problem. If somebody falls into that, particularly if somebody falls into that envelope of shame that is not criminal, but is not right, should we then be forced not to talk about it? Should we then be forced not to discuss what Hester may or may not have said? And I think the focus shouldn't be on Hester. I think the focus should be on Diane Abbott. Whether Hester actively said these words or not, they were reported by somebody, and Diane Abbott is the person who is hurt in the process, threatened in the process, whose life is endangered by the process. And I think the Labour Party needs to seriously reflect on the way it's treated Diane Abbott. If it's okay to shrug and say, I accept your apology from a man who's giving you £10 million, why is it not okay to shrug and accept an apology from a former member of a party who has lost the whip? I know one example is in the Conservative Party, the other example is in the Labour Party. but they're both in the House of Commons, and they're both effectively tarred by the same brush. And I don't understand why, among other things, why the Speaker is so much under the thumb of the principal players in the House of Commons. The Speaker should be above that, and the Speaker should have been calling Diane Abbott to voice. There's only one person who really knows how those words hit home, and that is Diane Abbott, and we should have heard from her yesterday in the interests of democracy, not in the interests of allowing Diane Abbott to express her feelings. It's not her feelings which matter. It's the fact that she, as a democratically elected politician in our system, was attacked by somebody who has been funding a democratically elected parliament, a democratically elected political party, which happens to be our government at the moment. I think Diane Abbott needed to be heard yesterday, and I think that's probably the last nail in the coffin of Speaker Hoyle. I don't think he can continue beyond yesterday. I think yesterday was a failure, one failure too many.